Thank you all very much for joining me here tonight. Really humbled by the attendance and grateful for everyone for tuning in that are investing in themselves and investing in their child's soccer journey as well. Before we get going, I would like to acknowledge the land that we live, work, and play on. And in the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, of the Siksika, the Kainai, and the Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. I want to make sure that tonight is as much a discussion as it is a presentation. So again, if you've got any comments, questions, concerns, please feel free to put them in the chat at any time. I am a one-person show tonight, so I'll be doing a few tasks. So please bear with me if there's some pauses. I doubt that the internet has dropped out. It's probably just me being a little bit slow. So please bear with me, and we'll make sure that we've got a fantastic evening in store. As you can see on the screen, this is a bit of a layout as to what we're going to be speaking about tonight, and really where we're going with this evening. So with no further ado, let's get after it, because I'm sure everyone has got a busy evening ahead and has had a busy day. So first off, quick introduction. Who am I? My name's Jordan Stewart. I am the technical leader for CMSA, and I've been on the job for about 18 months now. Originally, I was brought in to do an analysis of some things, and then was brought in full time. I've worked with players. It should actually say U6, U4 kind of ages, all the way through to university age players. And my former employer was Alberta Soccer, where I was the regional coach for Southern Alberta and also the Recs director for the province. Really, my main portfolios of work there and the experience that I'm taking into this role was around player development, around district outreach and supporting districts to become better, and then also through the coach education streams. And some of my past experience in terms of working in the game, you wouldn't know it by looking at me, but I've been doing this for about 18 years now, from a coaching capacity and involved in that sense. I've worked everywhere from grassroots club soccer into professional academies, into youth national teams, colleges and universities, and also community outreach programs. So I've got a really diverse lens on the game, especially here in Alberta. And I've been living in Calgary for about 5 years now, and I've really enjoyed my time here thus far. In terms of what else we're going to be covering here tonight, let me just get back. There's loads trying to get in, which is always great. Brief overview is just some important awareness information for you, the principles that we're operating under, and some key pieces there for everyone to understand the lens that we're approaching everything through, as well as a brief chat about the 3-year technical plan that's been developed and that we've been utilizing. And as you can see, some other pieces there that we will get into. So some important just information and awareness pieces for everyone is our photo IDs available for all players U10 plus. You can come into the CMSA office. Please book an appointment. There's loads still available through the web portal. Or if you live up in the northeast or the north side of the city, we will be at Genesis Center on April 23rd from 10 until 5. If you've got a cell phone with you right now and you'd like to give us some feedback on some of our brand refresh and our logos, please look to link through that QR code that you can see on your screen, and you can feel free to fill out that survey at any moment. We're really interested in parent feedback and parent involvement, so if you could do that, that would be amazing. And then lastly, the Calgary Cup is an annual tournament that CMSA holds over the August long weekend. We've got teams from across the country that are registering and that are interested in attending. So it's looking to be a really great event this year. And if you want any more information on any of that, please visit calgaryminersoccer.com for more information on that. Awesome. So now that we've gotten a little bit of the housekeeping out of the way, just into some of the principles and a mindset that I'd like us to approach tonight with. Everything that we're doing at CMSA right now is around keeping the game accessible to as many as possible for as long as possible, being inclusive of everyone within the Calgary soccer community, and making sure that we have a safe environment. And when I say safe, I don't just mean physically safe, I mean psychologically safe as well, so that players can grow and develop through the game, both as players but also as people. And then lastly, of course, everything that we do has to be enjoyable. We want to make sure that the game and soccer is incredibly enjoyable for all players and all kids involved, as well as coaches, referees, administrators, club staff, you name it. When we're involved in the game, we want to make sure that it's enjoyable. And so what I was originally brought in was to have a look at what CMSA was doing, to provide some consulting, and to really take a look if what CMSA was doing was aligned with best practice or not. And so I first started to just look at basic numbers. How many players are actually registered within CMSA? And so as you can see from this data here, you'll see an increase in our U7s to U9s. We're doing a decent job in terms of bringing people into the game, but we're also noticing a massive decrease in terms of overall player numbers across leagues and across age groups, which is alarming. And the realities is we're not doing a very good job of retaining players in the game. But someone might say, well, surely just the bad players are leaving. Well, this number would suggest probably not. And in Canada, this number will have gone up. This number is about a decade old now, so I'll refresh this after this week. But this number is not much higher than when we initially started. So when we look at if we're doing a great job of either retaining players in the game or developing elite professional level players, we're simply not doing a great job. And you can see at the bottom there that Canada is statistically the worst out of the industrialized world at developing soccer players to a professional standard. So some of the things that you're going to see tonight might be different. Some of the things that you're going to see tonight about the U10 and U11 leagues and that offering from CMSA and what we're trying to do is not going to be in a traditional manner that you or I, if we grew up playing within Alberta and within Calgary, would have seen or would have been used to. It's going to look and feel a little different, but it's along the lines of those 4 principles that we talked about to make sure that we're aligning to best practice and satisfying those principles. So to answer the question that's come through in the chat right now, in terms of will this presentation have anything to do with league-specific pieces, 100%. But I want to make sure that we cover bits and global pieces that CMSA is trying to do. So there's an awareness of some of the other activities that we're trying to accomplish as well. So within this, what's guiding us is this 3-year technical plan. This technical plan is available on calgaryminersoccer.com, and you can feel free to download it to have a look. But I wanted to provide a quick and little update within where we're at with some of these initiatives. So we've completed realigning to Canada Soccer's grassroots standards, or we're very, very close anyway, and we're completed modifying match rules to prioritize enjoyment and development within all players. And then part of it as well is educating you as parents to make sure that things are going well. From the develop sphere, and that's one of the 3 spheres of the technical plan, we've had to delay a few pieces due to some circumstances. But as you'll see, we continue to make sure that we are on track and that we are actually completing the plan that we say that we're completing, and that we're accountable to our members at all times within this. Just going to let a couple other people in here and we can continue with the grow sphere as well. Growing the game is definitely one of CMSA's top priorities. And while there isn't a lot here on the screen in terms of actual objectives, some of those objectives are key objectives, like the Empower Her Committee and the Women and Girls in Soccer initiatives that are aligned to that, which I'll speak briefly to tonight. I want to also make sure that anyone who's new to soccer or is potentially not seen this before, that there's an awareness of the Canada Soccer Player Pathway and what all is involved within it. This diagram can look quite daunting to some people, but I want to make sure that it's explained and that there's an understanding of it. So the grassroots environments here, you can see, are learn to train, fundamentals, and active start. So your kids might have come through those levels and they would have progressed through based on their age. You'll see here that grassroots is defined in Canada from U11 females and U12 males. All of that is considered grassroots soccer within Canada. And FIFA provides a very similar definition in terms of U13 and below. What you'll then see is players going up through the diagram here into these boxes. So into either soccer for life in a competitive or a community stream, or also in terms of a developmental league, which in Calgary at least, and in Alberta, it looks something like this. It looks like that in terms of the AYSL being our developmental leagues and standards-based leagues, CMSA operating within these kind of 5 boxes. You've got Calgary United Soccer Association, which is the men's and co-ed league, as well as Calgary Women's operating in these soccer for life areas. As players move through, they could go up into this soccer for life and over into the senior categories, which are university and colleges, and even into the train to win categories, which generally are senior national teams and professional soccer, which Calgary's got a link to both the Whitecaps and Cavalry FC. You'll see here as your kids move through into a U15 National Team Excel program, that looks like the REX program and also the Whitecaps pre-residency program within Calgary here, and then up through into youth national teams and full-time residency out in Vancouver with the Girls Elite Rex program and also the MLS Academy program within the Whitecaps system. I'm going to pause there for 1 sec. I'm going to look to see if there are questions and comments so far. I see someone's got their hand up. If you could please just type your questions into the chat box, that would be really, really beneficial because it'll just help us keep on track. Just give me a sec while the chat is loading here. There's a question about ID cards. That question should have been answered. My son is new to the league. He is in U10. Does he need an ID to be created? It would be best to send an email into info@calgaryminersoccer.com to make sure that that's sorted. There's a comment here about costs. Unfortunately, CMSA does not control the cost that clubs charge. You can find all of our team entry fees on our website. They're available for everyone to be accessed and to evaluate what that is. It says my daughter was born in November 2012, but was placed in U10. Does she need an ID? Yes, she would. So please make sure that is sorted. What is CMSA's position on playing up a season? Example, U9 playing in with U10 or 11 teams. We can get into that in a little bit later. Why is it that Calgary and Edmonton do not run the same programs? My daughter was playing futsal this indoor, and yet Edmonton doesn't play futsal. Those are district-specific offerings. And while there isn't a provincial alignment yet on that, hopefully there will be soon. The ID cards all have an expiry date, so please look at that to make sure that you're sorted. Okay, I'm going to continue through into what competitive balancing is. And you might have noticed this. You might have had older siblings as well that have went through this process in indoor. This was the first year that we had implemented this. We wanted to see if we could achieve the goal of having more meaningful competition more often. And so what that means is is having essentially a massive seeding round where you play randomized games, see where you shake out, and then afterwards having really focused games that are around the team's ability level to decrease the goal spread per game. And so what we found was this. This is the data that we collected, and in 26 out of the 38 divisions that we had, we saw a goal spread improvement. Most of the ones that did not see a goal spread improvement were things like 0.02 to 0.08 to 1.04. So they were still quite tight. They just weren't tight enough to classify as an improvement. But we feel that this was a very, very beneficial exercise and something that we'll continue to do throughout the leagues and throughout the years as players go through CMSA. We want to touch briefly on some general coaching standards that CMSA is expecting and is encouraging our clubs to achieve. And what you'll see here is a brief overview. Apologies there, that's skipping through. I guess my computer's struggling just a little bit right now. What you'll see is an overview of the Canada Soccer Coach Education Pathway. So on the bottom here, you've got the community stream workshops that are available in two parts. One part is the theory online, which you complete through Canada Soccer's website. Then the other portion is a practical on-field session where a learning facilitator works with the coaches and is able to provide information and feedback to them. Those are typically your entry points into coaching, but you can also make an entry point straight into the C license if you wish. And that will propel you into more specific licensing based on the age and stage of player that you're working with. If you're interested in coaching, I would encourage you to get involved. It's one of the most rewarding things I've done in the game. And if you're there watching anyway, you might as well learn a bit of coaching to help out both your son or your daughter to become more invested in the game. This is a brief chart that's available on our website in terms of what we're both recommending and what is required for provincial competitions. So we're making sure that respect in sport is done by a minimum of 2 officials on each team. We're making sure that police clearances with a vulnerable sector check are done. And then we're recommending both coaching courses and making ethical decisions for coaches. It won't be long until that's written into the rules, and we will require coaches to have those courses in order to be able to coach within CMSA. Because the stat on the bottom there was really interesting, and that was from the indoor survey that we launched just after this past indoor season concluded. And a knowledgeable coach that's a good role model was the top response across players, parents, and coaches as being a key priority as to why their child is involved in the game. And so what we've communicated to the clubs over the past almost 18 months now is this is the way that we're looking to implement certain standards within the leagues. Because teams with a qualified coach will lose about 5% of kids per year, but teams with an unqualified coach are losing 26% of kids per year. So if we go back to potentially why we're not retaining players within the game and why we're not retaining kids within sport, this could be a key piece to answering some of that question. It's not the only piece to the jigsaw, but it could be a key piece. I want to make sure that everyone's aware of the educational resources that we've developed as well. So we've developed a video around the Grassroots League that if you've got any younger children in the U7 to U9 age groups that are involved, please give that a watch. It's a 6-minute video. It's far easier than reading through the 40-page guidebook that's developed, and it will give you a really thorough understanding about what we're trying to do and what's going on within the Grassroots League. As well, we've defined what developmental and recreational programming is, especially in this U10 and U11 age group, to suggest that it isn't just about ability. It isn't just about the current status of the player and ability of that player. It's truly about the interests that they have, and we'll dive deeper into that a little bit tonight. And lastly, a lopsided game strategies piece as well that will be launched in the next day or two as an educational tool for parents. And we'll also discuss a piece of that here tonight. Want to make sure that there's an awareness about the cup competition that we've launched for the U13, U15, and U17 provincial qualification if you've got older children in your house. It's an opt-in for the teams. It's removed provincial qualification from the league and put it into this cup competition. And we're trying to make this a really memorable experience, something that feels, looks, smells, tastes different than the normal league offering. And we want to make sure that players have got something different and coaches have got something different, so they've got a great experience through the game and through this summer. Next is around the Empower Her initiatives that we've got. And this is our women and girls in soccer initiatives. So we've targeted 4 areas in terms of player, coach, official, and then an other category. And within the player category, we're starting to structure things in a more social manner. So including drop-in nights, which the first one is April 30th. So if you've got a son or daughter that's born 2006 to 2009, we want to make sure that they come out. It'll be held at the Macron Performance Center. We'll have a DJ going, we'll have a great atmosphere, and it'll be a really unstructured, fun environment that kids can come and play the game. Also, looking to launch a Big Sister program where local university players are integrated within young female teams to develop a role model situation that these young girls can look up to, can aspire to, and to also ask questions of in terms of how they've gotten there, what their journey's been like, and integrate these young women in universities into the teams to hopefully turn them into coaches, administrators, referees, and keep them involved in the game in a soccer for life context. Next, we've got, let me just zoom out there. Next, we've got the other category. And so part of this is around empowering and inspiring young women. So for International Women's Day, the theme was Break the Bias. So we hosted a webinar with Shahiza Haji, which if you haven't seen it yet, I would encourage you to do so on Calgary Soccer's YouTube, or sorry, Calgary Minor Soccer's YouTube. It's a phenomenal educational video on the biases that she has broken down within her entrepreneurial career, as well as how she's taken lessons through sport and applied them into her business and into her life. A phenomenal chat. If you've got a daughter in your house, please encourage them to watch that as well, because it's really, really powerful. And then lastly is around the coach and officials lenses. And so we've put 12 female coaches from the CMSA district through the all-female C license, which is currently happening. We've subsidized the cost, and I would encourage you to ask yourself, could I be next? Could I be a coach? Could I be a great role model for young women in the game? And could I give back to the game in a different capacity? As part of our global chat within all of these is around referees as well. And I want to make sure that this is really well understood, especially within this age group, because you're going to be seeing this quite a bit. Around the referees initiatives, we've got kind of 3 pillars: attract them, retain them, and then progress them. And so one of the key pieces that we're looking at here is around retaining our referees. And so that's going to include a teal shirt campaign, where if you see a referee in a teal shirt, that means that that referee is having their first year of refereeing as you're watching them. So it's no different than some provinces putting an N on the back of the car or an L on there to signify that someone's learning, to evoke some empathy within all of the people that are around them, but also to just accept that they're going to make mistakes, that they're going to have a difficult time at times working through the laws of the game, and that it's not going to be perfect. So please, if you see them, understand that they're learning the game the same way some of our players are and some of our coaches are as well. We're also going to be launching an awareness campaign on the abuse that officials are facing. And so if you're someone who even wants to yell at a referee in terms of "come on, ref," or question a decision, I hope that this awareness campaign will question your behaviors and how we interact as a society towards our referees. Because at the end of the day, we have to shift the culture within Calgary. We have to shift the culture in terms of how we treat referees. It's not a World Cup final. Millions of dollars aren't on the line. please have some empathy for our referees, as they are involved because they still enjoy the game and they enjoy refereeing. So don't take the love of refereeing out of it for them. And another strategy that we're looking to implement is our mentorship program. We feel that this is a fairly robust program that'll see a mentor connected with 2 brand new or 3 brand new referees to provide them support, and have 4 games within the first 20 attended by that mentor to help them. And so you'll notice that the U10s and U11s start slightly earlier than any other league, and that's because the first few games are going to be for these new referees, and we want to make sure that these mentors are available and accessible for them. So you'll see a crop of new referees at your first few games, and mentors there trying to hold their hand and guide them. So please be gentle with them. Please understand that this is someone else's child, that if you choose to abuse and you choose to berate, that it's borderline child abuse. All right. Now probably what everyone's tuned in for. I'm going to just head back to the chat really quickly. I know that there's been some activity there, so give me 2 seconds and I'll make sure to get to everything here. Sorry, just takes a second. Computer's bogged down a little bit, but wanted to make sure that I've got to everyone here. One comment says female coaches can also be a great role model for the boys as well. Couldn't agree more. One of the first coaching roles that I had was working alongside a female assistant, and I learned more from her than anyone else that I have coached beside. She was a phenomenal role model, and she really promoted some of those pro-social norms that we would expect soccer and sport to be promoting. In terms of equality, in terms of equity, in terms of treating each other with respect, and she was absolutely amazing. So there's certainly an awareness there that I think we can do better. So thank you. I think people have corrected me. I guess it's U11 and up that need ID cards. Thanks very much. Importance of an ID card. Are they required for something specific? Yes, your son or your daughter will have to have an ID card in order to play. They're checked by referees before the games to make sure that the right player is there at the match and that things are all verified. So yes, they will be there. Luis has got a comment that a lot of grassroots players quit because their kids do not like the festival format. Well, we'll get into that a little bit tonight and where the U10s and U11s are actually going. And we'll discuss briefly what a festival format is. That's the U7s to U9s. That chat was last night. And if you'd like to watch that, it's already uploaded onto our YouTube. So if you want more info, please do it in that manner. Placed in a lower division of 2 groups in our division of Christmas due to competitive balancing, but only a top group had the final 4. The boys were disappointed. We've ran through a debrief in terms of how we did that, and we'll make sure that that's adjusted in the future. It being a first year, it was a trial and error piece, and some things weren't done as brilliant as we would like to. There's a comment here about hockey's having 16 clubs, soccer has like 40. Well, we actually have between 30 and 31 member clubs, so I guess that's better than 40. Would like to have a better balance of teams and would be easier to have quality coaches in one place. Thank you very much for the comment. Not sure that has much relevance in terms of our discussion tonight. In terms of U10s not playing games, they will 100% play games. We'll give you that rundown right now in terms of what that looks like. Give me 1 sec, just letting in 3 more people into the chat here tonight. Apologies for those who have tuned in on time. We'll admit those and away we go. So what you've tuned in for tonight, DevRec definitions. I want to make sure that we're really, really clear on this in terms of what developmental and what recreational mean. So developmental, I would expect the clubs and I would expect parents to be using the following kind of criteria to determine what stream might be better, because developmental leagues run a bit longer, and this is a key consideration. Does your child love soccer? Is that what they do full time in terms of season after season after season, indoor to outdoor to indoor to outdoor? Are they trying to do multi-sport as well, which is really, really encouraged? And I would encourage people to make sure that you're thinking about those pieces as well. And does your child really want more activity per week? Because if that's something that they do, then potentially a more developmental stream might be more appropriate for them. In terms of the recreational piece and what that's defined as, is maybe your child loves a variety of activities, from music and drama to camping to social time to family time, and maybe they're just looking for more of a part-time program. That would be a more applicable program and stream to register your child in. And while I know that this is probably too late, it's a consideration going forward for U11, and as developmental and rec roll up with the age groups. They could also want less activity per week and allow more time for different activities or other activities. And this is a key piece that we want to make sure that clubs and that parents are also not putting undue pressure onto players to say, well, you're really good, so therefore you need to be in a developmental program. At the end of the day, it should be the player's choice what program they participate in. And I know that there's factors that could inhibit that, but it's really, really key to connect with your child and to ask them what they're looking for out of their soccer experience, and really what they're also looking for out of the game and out of sport. Next, I want to talk quickly about some strategies for some lopsided games. And when we did the indoor survey, it was staggering that the stat at the bottom was what came out of it, that 60% of parents didn't actually know about these strategies. And so some of the strategies that we're encouraging clubs to be using, especially in this U10 and U11 age group, if games do get a little lopsided, is a strategy like 4 up, 1 up. That if the opponents are up by 4, it would be encouraged that your team adds another player to the field. It's not a requirement. It's not mandatory. It's a tool in a toolbox for coaches to use to see if they can get a more meaningful match. Because if you're going to devote upwards of 3 hours, including travel time, to a soccer activity, we want to make sure that that match is as meaningful as possible. The next initiative is around mix them up. And so this is going to require some deep cultural change within the Calgary soccer community, where if it is a mismatched game, can coaches get together? Can we mix the teams up, and can we penny them off and actually have a meaningful match within that game? Again, this is not going to look like the traditional style of sport where 2 teams show up, one wins, one loses, and you play for the desired time limit until someone goes home either really happy or really disappointed. And lastly, another initiative is around swapping goalkeepers. So allowing groups to play the other team's goalkeeper with them. And this could be for certain developmental outcomes, like if one team is dominating another, we'll swap them so that one goalkeeper isn't facing all the shots and rebounds and organizing the defenders, like the other one might be just working in possession in terms of their distribution. We can get different developmental outcomes through some of these initiatives, and really giving tools an option to do this. So I'll pause there because I think that there is some comments in the chat that I should address before we move on. Please have a look in the chat. That if something's already been said, you don't need to bring it up again. It'll just help us with time. Is there an easier way to get ID cards for the Okotoks players? Yes, you can actually email in pictures of the players as well. And all of this detail is on calgaryminersoccer.com. So give that a look, and then they're available for pickup at a certain time as well. We've had it so that the entire team has sent their photos in, and we've done it in a team batch, so one person can actually come and pick them up. We want to make things easier. Saw a position paper from CMSA stating that offer both rec and dev, and that kids were meant to be placed in these based on level of commitment and ability. My club is not offering any rec. Is this allowed? At the end of the day, yes. Clubs make decisions on what programming they're offering and what they're doing. So I would encourage you to ask questions and what that looks like. If a child starts in recreation, can they still move into developmental at a later date? That would be a club-specific question. You would have to ask your club that. We're not putting any sort of restriction on the player within that. Are you suggesting that you should be registering for developmental or recreation versus evaluations, 100%. And that's the way that we need to be moving in this culture and in this environment. Instead of clubs tiering players at really, really young ages, and we can get into that after this chat, we need to make sure that we're doing right by the player, and subjective rankings and subjective tiering of children at this young age has no correlation with talent identification, talent development, talent selection, and it doesn't correlate with any sort of research around what elite athletes actually are at older ages. Could the content of the split between rec and development be added to the info pages for future enrollment? It would have helped us. Yes, it is all available on our website. It has been sent through to the clubs. The clubs are meant to be promoting this as well. So if they aren't, please ask them for it as well. Clubs aren't allowing parents to choose Dev or Rec. They're placing players based on ability after evaluations. Again, you can be advocates for this. You can be microphones within the environment. 11-year-old daughter would prefer recreational, but it doesn't appear to be an option. I would suggest asking your club if that's an option, and if it's not, why it's not. Can they move you to rec without your consent? I would encourage you to have a communication with your club. If clubs are doing things without consent and without communicating that to you, that probably indicates what kind of a club environment you are in. And I would like to register my son in developmental, but all the teams in his club are recreational. It seems to be not an option. Again, developmental will just run longer. It is not in terms of a quality of program, a standard of coach, or a quality of opponent. It is based solely on interest. And while I know that some clubs are still doing evaluations, tiering players, saying you're in developmental, you're really good, you go here. That's simply not the way that we're moving as a community. But change takes time, and change is difficult. So we'll continue to work through it. Want to make sure people are aware of the field standards for these U10s and U11s, so that, again, you're the eyes and ears, and you can ensure that some of these pieces are happening. We've standardized the field size into a 30 by 50. I know that there is a range that both Canada Soccer allows, as well as other governing bodies, but we want to make sure that there's consistency from outdoor to indoor, and that there's consistency no matter where these players play, because varying the experience can have a detrimental impact on player retention and player development. If they show up and the goal size isn't 6 by 12, but it's rather 8 feet by 16 feet, well, I can only imagine how that goalkeeper is going to feel when 12 go past them and they can't even jump up to touch a crossbar. So we've instituted a standardized goal size as well in 6 by 12. I would ask you again that if you're out at a field and something doesn't look 6 by 12, that you either send us in an email or you ask your club what's going on. Matches will be 2 25-minute halves, and your ball size will be size 4. In terms of the modifications that some people might not have seen before, we want to make sure that we touch base on these. So what you will see this outdoor season with your U10s and U11s is a retreat line. And I'm going to talk at length about what a retreat line is. You're going to see players dribbling a ball in. You will not see players throwing a ball in. You will see them dribbling a ball in. And the rationale for this is twofold. One, it's in alignment with Canada Soccer's grassroots standards, which we'll discuss right at the end. And two, this is going to allow the ball to be in play more often. It's going to allow for more 1v1 interactions within the game. And it's also going to speed up the gameplay. So instead of a player standing there, turning, trying to find someone to throw a ball to, and their teammate receiving a ball in an aerial capacity that's more difficult to control, you're going to see players put their hand on the ball on the sideline. And if referees, if the game isn't able to be restarted within 3 seconds, you're going to hear a ready, set, play countdown, and a player dribbles the ball in and the game is live again. You'll also see no offsides within this league, because the field size simply doesn't work within an offside context. So I want to quickly talk about what the retreat line looks like. And the retreat line in the 7v7 matches will be the halfway line. So we're going to give players lots of space in order to build out. So scenario one would be goalkeepers making a save. So a player takes a shot, goalkeeper makes a save. What you'll see then is you'll see the red team, who's the defenders, drop off to the halfway line. We're allowing teams to build out from the back because this will allow players to develop better and allow more passing strings to take place. There's a lot of data and research around this. I can provide it to anyone who's curious. Then when that player's got a touch on the ball, the team will come in and look to press and can enter. Not when the ball leaves the penalty area, but when that teammate actually receives it. You'll also see this on goal kicks, where the similar situation, ball this time has missed, or the shot this time, pardon me, has missed. The team will drop off, and again, at the goal kick, we play out, and on that player's touch, the defending team can come and enter and look to press. The third situation that you're going to see this is a free kick to the defending team inside their own penalty area. So say a through ball was played and red team had a foul. That foul's inside the box there. So they would drop off to the halfway line and allow the ball to be played to anyone on that blue team. Good. And then they would then be able to enter that half. Now, I know what's going to happen. There's going to be coaches and there's going to be parents who think we can game the rules and we can find little loopholes. So potential other options are around goal kicks. And maybe some groups will choose to play direct. And what we're saying is we're allowing teams to play direct. There used to be a rule in place that would hamper the ability of players to play direct over the halfway line within a goal kick or from a goalkeeper's hands or feet. And what we're saying is in this situation, the cue that this player might be the best option should be played. It's going to work on that goalkeeper's distribution skills, and it's going to allow them to develop in a different manner. It's also going to force the red team to do different things. Now, coaches and their coaching behaviors will say, well, we're just going to play it long all the time. But what I would say is that there's different scenarios that when that's cut off, as you can see here, that player is not able to be played. We would expect coaches to say, that's not the appropriate cue to lump it long from the goalkeeper, but rather to play short, to retain possession, and then to encourage the team to come out and create space behind them. Lastly, around this retreat line, I wanted to make sure that there was clarity around what the infraction looks like and what's going to happen when there is an infraction. So this example is on a goal kick. So the shot's gone wide. The teams have organized, but you can see that these two red players haven't dropped off behind the halfway line and behind the retreat line. So as the ball is played, the referees will blow a foul. They will stop the game and they will restart it by backing up that defending team and allowing a restart to occur at that point. I'm going to pause there. I'm going to scroll through the chat really quickly because people are very, very active in this tonight, which is really cool. I'm just scrolling through, making sure that I don't miss anything. How does this translate when playing in tournaments outside of Calgary? Is other regions still tier? I can't control that, if I'm honest. We are one of the leading districts within the country. We are going to feel more pain than others, and we are ahead of the curve in terms of making the necessary adjustments. I would say that your club and your coaches should be able to select an appropriate tier for that tournament. If it's a, say, U10, Tier 1, Tier 4, Tier 8 kind of tournament. There's a summary on the CMSA site that states 2 30-minute halves, but the rules state 2 25s. Thanks very much for catching a typo. We'll make sure that that's adjusted. Canada Soccer says dribble in or pass in. So why is CMSA adjusting to just dribble in? Great question. Absolutely phenomenal question. The 7-a-side rules are available on the site as well, and there's a little executive summary at the beginning that explains why we're not having a passing quite yet. And this is in consultation with the clubs as well, that they feel, and I feel, that if a passing option is allowed, that it will just turn into a set piece opportunity for coaches who really have no investment in developing players and developing players for the future game. And when I say a set piece opportunity, given the picture on the screen, say the ball went out of play here at the halfway line. Well, if a pass in's available, you know that all of these blue players are going to get into the box and it's just going to get lumped in there, hoping to score a goal. So what we're doing is we're doing a change management piece where we're saying dribble in is allowed. We're going to evaluate that. We're going to assess it and then assess whether the coaching behavior suggests that they can actually encourage their players to implement a pass-in option given the right context and given the right intention. It's purely down to the adults that will 100% find the loopholes, try to win more games and try to score more goals based on early developing players. What you'll see is you'll see shots come in from their defensive half as a set piece for players who can play over distance, which is not the intent of a pass in. So that's why we're starting with a dribble in and not going straight to a dribble and pass in. It's a fantastic question, though. Is there a reason we're not following Canada Soccer's 1/3 retreat? Twofold, which we'll get into in a little bit. Is a retreat line a CMSA thing or a Canada Soccer thing? You will see in 2 seconds. Are there 3 tiers in both developmental or rec? I saw today that CMSA was calling tier 3 rec. True. No, what we've done is we've grouped teams to begin with in terms of a group 1, a group 2, a group 3, to then go through a seeding round process, see if teams are mismatched, to then again provide a competitive balancing opportunity and to align like with like teams for the remainder of the season. So you might be in group 3. It's just a group. It's not a tier. It's not indicative of equality. It is just a group for right now to begin with until we can see where groups are at and move teams accordingly. Question here, would the team in possession be allowed to take a quick restart before the defending team gets to the halfway line? That's not in any sort of rules. We would encourage teams to drop off. If there's an opportunity to play on and to play quickly, that's going to be something that we're going to have to go through the referees with and make sure that they have an awareness if teams are able to do a quick restart rather than announcing it here tonight and then causing all sorts of havoc. What's the criteria for goalkeepers? Do they rotate? We don't have any sort of hard and fast criteria. What we would encourage is that multiple players try many different positions. We would encourage all players to try goal as well, because at the end of the day, as players age, there simply aren't enough goalkeepers usually at older age groups. And especially on the girls' side, there is a reluctance sometimes to play in goal, not from a fear factor, but from the players that I've spoken with, more from a factor of letting the group down and then not being accepted within the group. So there's a key piece there that players should be rotating positions. Players should be trying different positions because we have no idea what position they're going to shake out at and what skills they're actually going to have when they turn 16 or 18. Question here, was the time restriction that they would need to be behind the retreat line? A team could walk back behind the line and take their time. That would be a referee piece where we're encouraging players to jog back. We want the game to take place in a quick manner. We want the ball to be in play for a majority of that 50 minutes. We do not want this to become a time-killing tactic. And at the end of the day, if that's what coaches will use it for, then those coaches need to have a good look in the mirror to see why they're actually involved within the game. Comment about tiering within Rec and Dev. Okay, thank you for making everyone aware. My kids' team only has 9 players with 7-on-7. Doesn't that seem really low? I think that's amazing. I think that your players are going to get heaps of playing time, and I would love to be on a 9-player roster team for 7-a-side. What we've set as our maximum with CMSA is 14 player maximum. But if you've got 9 really committed players and they're playing, I think that's amazing. The minimum is 7, so I guess you're 2 players above that. How is a dribble in different than a pass in? We've kind of talked about that. Is there an amount of space the other team has to give the guy, or should say the player dribbling in? Yes, the players are meant to be backed up 5 meters, which is 6 yards, to give that player an opportunity to dribble in. Again, that is available in the rules document on our website. Please, please give that a look. Question here about what's happening with the schedule issues, please reach out to info at Calgary Minor Soccer with that concern. I've got nothing to do with that, unfortunately, and well outside the scope of tonight's chat. If a player does pass the ball, would it be considered a foul? Yes, it would be retaken at that point. How is this helpful when kids get older? Then you have to reteach kids to learn how to pressure and teaching them to do throw-ins when they are 13. Well, actually, great question. This will actually allow 4 teams to set up different pressing schemes. So it will teach players angle of approach. It will teach players speed of approach. It will teach players how to cut off passing angles. It'll actually help to set up pressing patterns within the game and will actually allow for greater development of defensive structures and pressing at older age groups when we do things like this. The alternative and what was previous was as the ball got played out of the area, that would signify players looking to run in and press. So what you get then is you get a defender that's pressing based on no trigger or no cue at all. And then you get a player that's under immense amount of pressure that's having to make a decision. Whereas what we can do with this is we can allow players to press at the correct angles with the correct timing as a unit, so that things like go together, stay together, arrive together actually occur. This will allow players to have more time on the ball, more time to make a good decision, and it's going to allow for greater passing strings that will mimic the modern game. Comment about encouraging rotating positions. Something about how when they are going back to a retreat line. Well, at the end of the day, the game will be restarted when the players are back in that retreat, behind that retreat line. I gave an example of the infraction that a referee would stop it, put the players back there, and then restart the game. If a team goalkeeper makes a save and wants to have a quick restart, I mean, there's going to have to be something concocted for that. So we'll make sure that we chat about that as well. Last few pieces for tonight, and then I'll share some more pieces in terms of where we're going. So underpinning all of this is both long-term player development in this learning to train piece, and long-term player development has been something that's been advocated for since 2009, which is when it was first produced. And while some of these pieces are starting to show their age a little bit, this still underpins where Canada Soccer has gone with their revised grassroots standards. And so what you'll see here is an overview of where they're trying to go in terms of having a standardized and consistent experience for players nationwide. And given the diverse nature of our country, you'll see some things like maximum goal size. You'll see things like referee or game leader, which will be foreign to us, but are coming very, very soon. And so what it boils down to with the U10s and U11s is we're meant to be playing 7-a-side. The ball size is either a 4 or a light size 5, and you've got that range of field size that you can see. You'll see a maximum goal size as well, and we've chosen to go with a 6x12 to ensure that there's some sort of standard and that there's some sort of consistency within this age group. You'll also see things like the maximum game duration, and you'll see the maximum game time per player per day and minimum rest between games. So this would be if you're playing in a festival format, and we'll talk briefly if people want to about what that actually is. Because you'll see here that the game day format is meant to be in a festival format. And while we're not there yet with our grassroots league implementation, that will be coming. So those players that are rolling up with it will know a festival format. What the festival format would allow us to do would be to have more open rosters and to have players flexibly placed in different environments to get different developmental outcomes out of them. Right now, we operate within the U10 and U11 age groups on a fixed roster and a call-up system. So if you have questions about that, please feel free to reach out and we can explain what that is, or reach out to your clubs, even better, and have them explain what that looks like as well. You'll see here around structured training durations. You'll see around number of games per week, either a festival or league play, depending on what the age group is. You'll see player to coach ratios that are encouraged both at match days and at training. And you'll see fair playing time for all players, regardless of ability, regardless of game situation, and regardless of any other factors. Fair and equitable playing time for players. You'll see unlimited subs. You'll see a retreat line if required at 1/3. We've chosen to go at the halfway line to remain consistent based on last year and based on previous iterations of this, both in Alberta and in Calgary, to make sure that we're not causing too much change within other systems that we can then adjust when need be. And you'll also see that there is no offside there. So what I'll do is I'm going to put up my contact information. It is 8 o'clock now. So I thank everyone for tuning in. I thank everyone for giving up some time and engaging in some dialogue within the chat. Should you want to reach out, those are my contact details. I typically don't engage publicly on Twitter, but if you'd like to follow and like to see what I post and where we're going, please feel free. And feel free to reach out via email. I hope that this has been educational. I hope that this has been a tool that you can use to help understand what's going on this outdoor season within the U10 and U11 age groups. And I'm looking forward to watching them on the pitch. I'm definitely going to be out on Saturday having a look at the first few matches. So we really want to make sure that these age groups are tended to, because these age groups are ones that see rampant drop off within the game. So thank you very much for your time. I'll stick around for a little while longer if people have got questions or comments or concerns. But really, thank you for attending, and thank you for your investment in the game and in tonight.